From the readings, Prezi by Cindy Fisher for EDL 633. The two books used for the readings, Pascarella and Terrancini, How College Affects Students, and Wren and Reason, College Students in the United States. One issue mentioned time and time again is the issue of disparity. It came up in so many different ways. A few that stood out to me, one was the disparity that Wren and Reason speak about on page 64. They're referring to Goldnick-Rab 2006 and Goldnick-Rab et al. 2007. They say, unfortunately, as much of the literature about transition to college points out, high school preparation is inequitably distributed, with lower levels of preparation provided to students of color and lower income students. Another disparity was that in support, there was socioeconomic disparity. For example, parents of means being able to send kids to camp or tutoring or resources, schools or institutions having, for example, orientations that differ, resources, both physical resources and staff resources that are different, and that are different in an economical way, disparity. Let's see, also just the awareness of resources on campus. And so along with the orientations, the need to design orientations with the understanding of the pressing needs of the school's populations was pointed out. Another thing, higher education treatment on page 102 of Wren and Reason. Empirical studies of campus climate indicate that higher education, like society, does not yet treat everyone equally. They go on to mention various groups that have historically been the margins. Some that they mention, people with disabilities, immigrants, students of poor working class families, students who practice religion other than Christianity. They talk about some recent groups, for example, mixed race students, transgender students, returning veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan, students without U.S. citizenship, maybe exchange students, for example. They talk about the Chile campus climate, which also relates to that issue of disparity. They spoke about it in regard to women, but I feel like it would apply to all those groups that I was just mentioning. And the idea of higher education benefits are different for different people and different groups. And for example, the first generation to experience college may experience it differently than somebody that already has a degree. The impact or influence of the environment, the campus culture, and the peers on higher education and the benefits. So why the issue of disparity? Well, this issue stands out to me because it's an overarching theme. I saw it time and again in the readings. And there's also my own desire for fairness and equity that I think came into this, a personal sense of wanting to be fair and do the right thing. So how does it relate to the college student case study? Well, the interviewees, since I'm doing Latino dads, may have experienced unwelcome behaviors and environments. They may be immigrants, they may be first-generation college students, they may be non-U.S. citizens. And let's see, just that fairness and equity in the interviewing and in the research process. And also a kind of an awareness and a special effort to put the interviewees at ease and develop a rapport, because they're people that I don't yet know, and they may feel kind of uncomfortable. Who is this person and why is she interviewing us? Another issue is the issue of differing perceptions. For example, a big takeaway seemed to be that students that were self-reporting indicated higher gains, for example, in critical thinking than when quantitative assessments were used. Another example would be from Pasquarella and Terenzini, um, page 206. African American students attending historically black colleges had gains in critical thinking that were indistinguishable from those demonstrated by their African American counterparts enrolled in predominantly white colleges. However, when the dependent variable was self-reported gains in critical thinking, the African American students reported significantly greater progress than those attending the historically black colleges. Another difference in perception is also seen between respondents. For example, since there's so many very different respondents, they may have different reasons for attribution to the reasons that they were successful, for example. And since peer interaction had such a large role, um, depending on the peer groups and depending on the schools, there were differing perceptions, again, between respondents and also between institutions. And along with that, there's the felt effect, the idea that the person perceiving, if they feel that the way they feel is the way they feel. So, for example, since it's mostly women who are undergraduates, 55% of the white undergraduates and 68% of the black undergraduates are women, and the idea that if they're still feeling that it's a hostile climate, it's something that person is feeling. So why does this issue of differing perceptions stand out to me? Well, it's another reoccurring theme. And there's always the idea of which perception is the correct one, or whose perception is it? Which, what do we what do we believe? There's also the idea of empathizing with the sentiments, and I feel like I've been there a few times with some of these things and can relate and empathize. And how does it relate to the study that we're doing? Well, can realize that the participants, the interviewees, are going to have differing perceptions. There can also be that language, maybe a language barrier that may have an effect on the interview. For example, the questions, as they're translated or the person's translating it in their mind, they may have different preconceptions or connotations of the questions. And also there's a group setting, so there may be a peer effect because one student may respond and the next person hears them and is responding differently than if it was just the one interviewee at a time.